wanted to talk about the idea that has been on my mind for about the past month. And I started thinking about it when I was trying to strategize different ways of how I could be successful in different aspects of my life. This could be whether if it's business or even in other career paths and other natures like that. And I was really thinking about the nature of collaboration and how not a single person can become ultimately successful, in my opinion, by doing it alone. And this idea started coming through my head because I started looking at other celebrities, other successful entrepreneurs, or other musicians, as well as people in the career of science who were being successful and achieving these goals. And I noticed that a lot of them had help, they had a group, or they had some form of assistance either in the beginning or throughout their entire career. And I thought that was very interesting because I feel like not many people really examine the teamwork that goes into being successful. For example, let's say you have a musician or an entrepreneur who's trying to gather a following, gather attention, and trying to get people to pay attention to their craft. And if you have, let's say, the individual, if you could accumulate, let's say, 1,000 individuals to pay attention to your craft, well, the mindset that I come up with is that if you have a group of people doing this craft, and let's say you each have 1,000 of your very own, let's say, viewer or consumer, things of that nature. Well, if these individuals, let's say you have 5 entrepreneurs, if they collaborate in a greater group, then they ultimately can share their pool of people that consume their content or the material or whatever it is. So in this case, instead of having 5 entrepreneurs who have, let's say, 1,000 customers each, potentially they can share in all their content working together, and they can each have 5,000 consumers or content intakers collectively each because they're sharing. And I was thinking about this, for example, if there were kind of like groups, entrepreneur umbrellas or organizations that can say, we're going to take 5 different companies together and we're going to work together so that we can all succeed. So for example, if entrepreneur number 1 is producing content in podcasts, and entrepreneur number 2 is producing content in video making or commercials of that nature, and maybe entrepreneur number 3 is doing outreach programs for whether if it's through teaching science at schools or doing some kind of giving back to the community. I think if all of these entrepreneurs then work together, they can say, let's say entrepreneur number 1 who's doing a podcast, they can shout out the entrepreneur that's doing these outreaches to maybe work with the ecosystem and some project they're working on and get that entrepreneur some attention and things of that nature. Or the entrepreneur that's doing the video making for whatever product they're trying to push out, they can start putting on these other entrepreneurs that are doing the podcast and saying, in addition to my video making and all the videos that I'm making, make sure to shout out my other counterparts who are also making good crafts as well, or my other counterpart entrepreneurs and colleagues who are doing these things in the community. Make sure to reach out to them because that might be of interest if you like my content. I'm sure you will like what they are doing as well. And I think this is a very important key that I just don't see that being highlighted enough, in my opinion. I think maybe this could be an American culture, I don't know. But it always just seems like there's too much emphasis on the individual, that the person did it on their own. They were able to achieve against all odds as the individual, the one person, the main character, the superhero of the story. And I just don't believe that is the case. It always seems like it's always a group of people behind every success story. Even though when you see movies, when you see all these different books written about famous people, they make it seem like this person was just gifted by themselves and they depended on nobody else. And so I started thinking, like, I think this is a very important concept, especially in the entrepreneur space and even careers, because now connections are really what makes success. Because knowing somebody who knows somebody is how you make these connections, these business deals, these job opportunities, and all these different ways of being successful. And I even experienced it in my life where a friend of a friend knows of an opportunity that can benefit me. This happened to me, and I think that is just how success comes about. So ultimately, it seems like the more people you can collectively work with on a very large scale, the more connections you have, and the easier it is to get that special hit, that lucky find, or that one in a lifetime opportunity that can totally switch your life, switch your business, so that it can start growing exponentially. And that's one thing I would want to see in the world more, is organizations really focusing on, of course, not just paying attention to the individual company, but also paying attention to how can we take all of these different companies that we're funding, let's say they have a portfolio of like 6 companies, and how can we use these 6 companies to help each other out while we, of course, help out each individual company one at a time. I think that could lead to some impressive things because, of course, everybody has their gifts and talents and everybody has their connections, especially if you're working in a very international community. If you have a company that's from, let's say, North America, and then you have another company that's from Europe, another company that's from South America, and then another company that could be from Africa or Asia, these different cultural differences can just have different opportunities depending on the field of work that you work in. And you will never know that unless you have these connections. And I think there is a lot of missed opportunity when people don't emphasize working together, collaborating, and just helping each other, genuinely helping each other. I think that is what is really needed. Just genuinely supporting your colleagues, and then they support you back, and just creating this community of just ultimate support. I think that will go a very long way and will benefit everybody in the long run. People share their contacts. People are sharing their viewers who are looking at their content. People are sharing their customers who are maybe consuming anything that they're producing. I think that is key, and I wish more and more people realize that. You cannot succeed alone. You need a community to reach the point of success.